Just like you, start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining us here on Global Morning. I am Wiya Mofwegbe. As always, it's a pleasure. We welcome you to the program. Quite an interesting week it has been so far, even though we have not seen the end of it just yet. Quite a number of big stories have popped out the last couple of days. One of them we'll be looking at quite extensively in the course of the program this morning. My colleague Ramsey Enoch Agbo has also registered his presence on Global Morning today.
Good morning. It's good to be with you on Global Morning today.
Yes, it's my pleasure seeing you as well.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's put it on the road. Finally, yesterday, the service chiefs that have been appointed by President Bola Tinubu have now been confirmed, having been screened by the National Assembly, by the Senate in particular. Several issues were raised, of course, as expected, around insecurity across the country, what the situation has been over the years, the challenges in particular, and what this new leadership going forward will bring to the table to better, well, if you like, put the country in a position to win the war against insecurity of all kinds. If you look at the papers today, you still find that we have a pocket of reports focusing on concerns associated with insecurity. So it's already very evident that these gentlemen, the security chiefs, have a lot of work on their hands to do, and that assignment they better understand, because as it stands today, Nigeria desperately wants to see military, defense, and intelligence leadership beyond what we have experienced so far. Ramsey, yesterday we were all here looking forward to how the confirmation hearing will go, but all of that now is behind us because all five of them have been confirmed now as appointed by President Bola Tinubu. Nigerians have also expressed their expectations in terms of what they want to see happen with this new leadership. We have heard a lot about kinetic and non-kinetic approach to fighting insecurity. We have heard about whether or not subnationals, state governments in particular, should enter into some sort of amnesty initiative, pardon of some kind with bandits and so on and so forth. For example, in this regard, the governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal, has persistently maintained that there shouldn't be basis to grant amnesty to bandits or even negotiate with them. Of course, some other governors differ with him. What have been your observations so far regarding these developments?
Well, I think with a welcome development, at least there is a replacement. And of course, everybody with different ideas, different tactics, and different strategies. Let's assume the outgone chiefs, all right, for now, they are a closed chapter somehow now, as it is. All eyes on the new service chiefs, and Nigerians are looking forward. The only language Nigerians want to hear right now is terrorism has been put to rest in Nigeria. That's the only thing. And it's not like these people are not capable. They are capable, and that's the reason the president has appointed them and now been confirmed. I think the confirmation is a wake-up call that, okay, you have been found qualified and worthy to assume this office. Therefore, this is a security situation, terrorism that we're talking about, which has been on ground for a very long time. So there is no time for delay. I think the first thing they should do now is how to visit these areas, and how to get more people involved, as it has to do with intelligence. Right. Because there is no level of intelligence that will be more than enough, because intelligence is always needed for a situation like that. So Nigerians are waiting for what will happen at the end of the day as regards terrorism in Nigeria.
All right, that's a lot to say. We're also going to be bringing you, as we've started doing just this week, our motivational segment on the program this morning. But before that, we're taking a break. When we return, we'll talk a little more, and then it will be time for motivation. To stay with us. All right, so finally, the federal government again has now reviewed the list of those who had earlier been pardoned, about 175 of them. That list, according to one of today's headlines from Nigeria's news dailies, it says the list has now been purged. All right, so the president has taken another look at the list, and a lot of review has happened. In the case of Mariam Sanda, for example, whose before now life death penalty had been pardoned, has now been reduced to 6 years. So we understand she'll have to do 5 extra years in prison going forward. So we have quite a number of them within that same bracket. This is what many Nigerians had earlier reacted to, saying that there are several cases on that list that ought not to have been eligible for pardon, of course, without prejudice to the president's latitude, let's say, to grant prerogative of mercy or to use his prerogative of mercy. There are those who have said, even since yesterday when this news came through, that this is a step in the right direction. It is the way to go. And you know, Ramsey, that was a high-profile case back in the day, so to speak, when the issue of Mariam Sanda came up. But today, all of that has been laid to rest.
Well, I think some of these things that are happening should be a lesson, to learn. Someone said something. He said, in everything that happened, it's either you're learning from that experience or the experience is having tolls on you. So I think the whole situation, the way it is something to learn from. We learn and unlearn almost on a daily basis. So as it is, everyone, it can be anywhere, it can be anyone at any time. So what we should do is pick what is necessary from situations as they happen, and of course, know what to do so that at least as you live your own life, you know that these things are happening and they can happen anytime, any day, anywhere to anyone. Right.
Again, the story around the home of former Bayelsa State Governor Timi Preye Silva being raided in Abuja. Another report says both in Abuja and in Bayelsa State is no longer news really. But the former governor himself, whom we understand has not been in the country the entire time, has now reacted to this development, saying that, yes, confirmed, his house had been raided by military authorities. However, according to him, he's not involved in any coup. This is the handiwork of desperate politicians. Who are these politicians? In his home state of Bayelsa, or those maybe who beyond Bayelsa State are also politically invested in the process and want to do him in? Or is it possible as well, these are all theories, that the former governor of Bayelsa State, who also had been Minister of State for Petroleum under former, now deceased President Muhammadu Buhari, just creating a front to distract from the real issues? And then, is the federal government telling Nigeria the whole truth? Is this all we should know about this situation? Or can we just step on our brakes for a second and say, well, this is an ongoing or a developing story. We keep our fingers crossed to see how eventually it turns out. This is some of the concerns that will need to be addressed in the days ahead. In the meantime, we're taking a break now. When we return, we'll bring you motivational segments. Do stay with us.
Hello and welcome to another beautiful day right here. I'm excited to come on your way once again. This is another time for us to talk, encourage ourselves, get ourselves inspired, talk heart to heart. My name is Ramsey Enoch. One of the things that a lot of people crave for is growth. Everyone wants to grow. Anywhere you are, one thing is common with every human being: changing of level, moving from one level to the other. Today, I want to talk about growth. Now, let's look at something briefly before I actually go into telling you one or two things about growth. As a matter of fact, strength and growth come only through what we call continuous effort and struggle. That is from Napoleon Hills. Growth is rarely comfortable. It comes with challenge, discomfort, struggle, whether it is personal development, whether it's emotional healing, or what we call building a skill. Growth demands what we call effort. Growth comes with what? It comes with a lot of challenges. Sometimes some people think growing is just something that happens. Let me tell you, when you're giving birth to, you grow. But that process, a lot of people don't take good cognizance of the fact that even growing as a child comes with a lot of assignment, a lot of duties, a lot of commitment. So many things have been put into growth, natural growth as human beings on earth. You give birth to a child today, you expect the child to get to one level that the child will start crawling. From crawling, you expect the child to start standing up a little bit, but after standing up, you expect the child to walk. When the child starts walking a little bit, you say, well, this child needs to start running now. You should be able to hold the child's hand to at least walk some distance. That is the level of growth. All of this does not happen under comfort. All right? It comes with a lot of challenges. And that's why if you're a parent, you know what I'm talking about. Now, growth also comes with what we call discomfort and struggle. If not until you know all of this, you wouldn't know any other thing that you will bear in mind that they are part of the things that you need to jump over to grow, to get to the other level, to shift in life and destiny. So, I want you to know that if you really want to grow, one of the things that you really need to do is to ensure that you develop a shock observer, because times of challenges will come. But if you know these things before time, when the time for challenges come, you know exactly what to do.
When that discomfort comes on your way, you know what to do, because what's on your mind is growth. You want to grow, and already you have this predisposition, you already have this mentality, you already have this mindset that growth comes with a lot of challenges, discomfort, and struggle. There is no man on earth, any successful man, that has grown from one level to the other in life. Ask them, find out. These are things that we can do practically. Why am I saying things? Because a lot of people think growing is just something that can happen overnight without putting in the work, without developing yourself, without getting ready to jump over the challenges, to overcome the discomfort and struggles that come with it. But you need to know that no matter the kind of growth that you are aspiring for, that you're looking forward to, it could be maybe personal development, it could be emotional development, it could be building up a skill. All of this demands some level of effort. Some people want to be rich overnight. Some people get into an assignment and they want that assignment to begin to yield result almost immediately. It doesn't happen like that. If not until you get to know all of these, you will make mistakes in life. Because you see someone who has put in the job, put in the effort, who has gone through the thick and thins of life, and the person grew to a particular level, and you sit there and you're jealous. No, that's not how it's been done. It doesn't come just by envy, but it comes with putting in the effort. When you know you have a goal, and that's the reason anywhere I go, I tell people, always write down what you want to achieve per time. Follow it. Everything you want to do in life, have the things that you need to do to achieve that very particular goal. There are factors you take into consideration, and for growth today, we're looking at the struggles that come with it. We're looking at the effort, whether it is personal development, whether it is a building of skill, whether it is to succeed in life. That's why, well, I just need to say this. Some inspirational speakers will come and tell you, hey, come on, you will grow in 10 days. You know, the reality of all this thing is that you should be ready. That if you want to grow from one level to the other, you need to put in particular effort. And don't think you will be doing the same thing all the time and expect a different result. That's what a lot of people know. A lot of us know that already. But then we need to tell ourselves the real fact, the truth. Because sometimes some people don't really tell you the truth. But then it's whosoever loves you that can look into your face and tell you, look into your eyes, eyebrow to eyebrow, and tell you the truth. That for you to grow in life, in that business that you are doing, for you to grow, you need to put in some effort. You should know that there are mountains to climb as you journey on the way. There are wilderness experience. So many things will happen. But determination and the quest for success and growth will help you surmount all of this. But then the number one thing that is very important is having this mindset. You need to know this. Whether it is personal development, emotional healing, or maybe building of skill, growth demands effort. You can't take that away. I just feel like repeating that over and over again so that it can sink into someone who is watching me and listening right now. Let me also let us know that the journey is often marked by what we call setbacks and frustration. Sometimes, maybe the people in your cycle. Yeah, let me talk about this. You need to be careful. If you want to grow in life, you need to be careful the kind of cycle you have. Your cycle determines. Your cycle is a factor. Tell me who your friend is and I will be able to tell you where you are heading. Tell me, show me your company, your association, and I will be able to tell you your level of acceleration, because association brings assimilation. And this assimilation, if it is positive, it brings what we call acceleration, which is growth. But these trials are what refines you. It's what makes you strong. A lot of people want to be mentors today. How can you be a mentor when you don't have an experience that you can share with your mentee, telling them, these are the things that I went through. This was how I was able to surmount these things and grow to the level that I am today. These are the things that refined me. Very important. And that's the reason I keep telling people, number one, you need to be very careful about your association, the people you mix up with. Any man who is not going your direction is not worth associating with that man. Anyone you want to call your mentor, that person must have had some form of experience in that area of endeavor, irrespective of what it is. But now, like a seed pushing through the soil, come, you know what, let me say this. It might be funny, but then it's the truth. If you ask the seed that you put into the ground that sprouts, germinates, grow, and bring out the fruit or become the food, the crop that you harvest and take home to eat today, if they tell you what they go through in the soil, the struggle to even come through the soil, to germinate, to grow into what you have today as seedlings, or probably as fruit or food, whatever you may call it, it's not easy. It's not an easy one. Like, I'm just giving you an instance. You need to know that growth is just like a seed pushing through the soil or muscle strengthening under strain. You know, when I see people and they say some things, it marvels me, because you need to know that every good thing doesn't come with just ease all the time. It's not all the time. I know, I believe in grace, I believe in favor, I believe in miracle. But then you need to be readily available for this miracle to happen, because your faith even needs to be in place. And that is the work that you need to put in place before the miracle even happens. So I know miracles happen. I know there is grace that makes things happen easily. But then you need to be ready to put in the assignment, the work, just like the seed struggle to be pushed out of the soil and grow to become whatever it is today. Struggle is not the enemy of growth, like some persons believe. Struggle is not the enemy of growth. If you must grow, know that it is the pathway to it. It is inevitable. You need to go through this process to grow to wherever you want to get to. Napoleon Hill's quote reminds us that there is no shortcut through strength. Every hardship endure, every obstacle faced adds a layer to our character. Growth doesn't happen overnight. It requires a long-term commitment to learning and adapting. When we actually embrace struggle as part of the process, then we become more resilient, wiser, and ultimately more fulfilled. That's what it is. Now, I just want you to know that you have the capacity to grow. You have what it takes to grow. You can change from that level, move from that level, grow on that assignment. If it is personal development, if it is money you want to make, whatever you want to become in life, meeting up with your goals, you have what it takes to achieve it. And this is going to be the size of Heart to Heart today. I believe this word is for you. This is your word for the day. Take it, digest it, meditate on it, and work on it. And you will be shocked the kind of result you will get as far as growth is concerned. Many thanks for watching. Have a beautiful day.
Welcome back. It's now time for us to take you through the national dailies and see what the papers are saying, beginning from the Daily Monitor this morning. On the Daily Monitor, we have the big story, which is where I will be starting from. On the big story, it says Tinubu reverses herself on presidential pardon for drug dealers, kidnappers, and others. Tinubu reverses self on presidential pardon for drug dealers, kidnappers, and others. This is a topic to really talk about.
Right.
Some writers to that story. The first writer says, a science reprieve law moves prerogative of Mercy Secretariat to Justice Ministry. President deserves commendation for reversing himself. This is coming from NIPR. A lot of people said so many things after the pardon, you know, and of course, I think this is part of the reason why some people said, well, we have a listening president. And now he's exonerating himself. He say, well, I may be the president, but I am reversing myself from this pardon. So what will happen to the people that have been pardoned now? Is the pardon going to stand, or the pardon will also be reversed? That's the question we're asking.
It's very straightforward, Ramsey. For those, the whole exercise stays or stands as reviewed already by the president. For example, like I highlighted a while ago, in the case of Miriam Sanda, who had been pardoned, absolutely. However, with this new position, it means that she'll have to do 6 years in all, 5 years in addition to, I think, the 1 year that she had done before. So you have a few other cases such as that. But maybe because of the high-profile elements in Miriam Sanda's case, it has become more of the pivot, so to speak, around which the conversation revolves. But this new review overrides the previous list. That's what it means.
All right. Well, let's just keep our fingers crossed. We'll always bring you the developing stories as it unfolds. Let's get back to the Daily Monitor and see the other headlines that we have from there. On the Daily Monitor this morning, we also have some other headlines. This one says the Senate confirmed new service chiefs, tax them on loyalty to C-in-C Constitution. C-in-C Constitution. If you want to know what that is, pick a copy of the Daily Monitor. Service chiefs restate commitment to secure Nigeria, defeat terrorism. This is pivotal, as a matter of fact. Let's see how that is really going to go. Then at the top of the paper, negotiations allowing terrorists to keep arms, prolong violence. Zamfara governor is the one saying that. This one says, NAS approves Tinubu's request to borrow $2.35 billion, issues $500 million sovereign sukuk. World Bank projects 6-year commodity prices fall in 2026. JAMB delegation walks out of reps hearing over presence of a journalist. A journalist friend, a colleague, actually did a video around it. That's N24 did a video of how that incident played out. And you can see that so many things are at stake. What is there to hide? What is the problem? Why don't you want journalists to be part of the discussion, or to know what's happening? These are watchdogs of the society. Is there anything to hide? You know, these are issues that need to be given more attention. I think to an extent, the House of Rep has been on some very vital issues recently, and it's a welcome development. But for any reason, I don't think it's proper, all right, for them to walk out of the hearing. All right, as it is right now, court orders permanent forfeiture of $49,700 recovered from ex-INEC rec. Okay? Those are the headlines from the Daily Monitor this morning.
All right. Thank you, Ramsey. Let's move away from there now and take a look at the different paper for you. This time, the New National Star. First off, here we go with the big headline. It says, let's see what we'll have there. Insecurity is the kicker. New service chiefs talk tough. It's a good starter, but there's more work to be done. Two writers here say, CDS lists challenges against terror fight, seeks adequate funding, reform of police to reduce task on military. Naval Air Chiefs advocates new approach to confront smarter enemies. Above the Star headline, top left corner, presidential pardon, Tinubu bows to pressure, rejigs clemency beneficiaries. You would find those details on page 2 of the New National Star. Nigeria, not violator of religious freedom, federal government. Governor Diri's defection, Bayelsa Deputy Governor sues Assembly, IGP over alleged impeachment plots. We understand that they got an injunction yesterday, but we'll follow that development to keep you updated. ASU, FG releases 2.3 billion naira batch 8 salary promotion arrears to universities. Reps approve Tinubu's $2.35 billion external loan request. Lawyers must pay 7.5% VAT under new tax law. Federal government insists. Of course, once you get your professional fee, you should pay your earning, all right? It's purely transactional, and that's economic in nature. Customs recruitment, Kano State Assembly alleges bias against North. What's their basis for that very weighty allegation? Well, I'm sure you would find details on page 3 of the New National Star today. FIFA CAF grants $1.2 million cannot build standard stadium. Reps committee slams NFF critics. All right, those details with context and perspective can be found on page 23 of the New National Star when you read up, when you pick up a copy today. Let's flip over now, everyone, to the next paper, which is the Punch newspaper, and Ramsey has those headlines for us.
All right, on the Punch newspaper this morning, we have some very crucial headlines, beginning from the big story, which says a coup controversy. Military tracks 45 billion naira in NDDC. All right, so many questions are being asked right now, but then NDDC. Okay, one writer to that story, detained soldiers link in NDDC top shots probe, silver out of country, denies link with alleged coup. We already talked about that. Tinubu resolves a pardon for Sanda, 140 high-profile inmates. Details on page 2. A Senate screening, that's the kicker. CDS eyes a foreign partnership to crush insurgency. All right, you can see a very big advert right there from Tanita. Okay, those are the headlines from the Punch newspaper this morning. As the page has been brought over, you can see the service chiefs right there. And this is what we have most times from this organization, as a matter of fact. So let's flip to the next paper.
All right, so we pretty much have the same feature on the Daily Sun this morning, which happens to be our next paper. But let's look at the headline, just adjacent the nameplate for you. It says, Tinubu bows to pressure, and that comes with one rider that tells us reviews pardon list excludes convicts of murder, drug, kidnapping, human trafficking, tightens criteria for future exercises. Yes, that's very proactive. And then the Star headline here says, alleged coup plot, security agents spread dragnets, fears. What do the three writers say to us? The first one here says, How DIA, NFIU, EFCC tracked uncovered ex-governor Silva's transactions. DSS, not military, raided his Abuja residence. Former Bayelsa governor confirms raid, denies involvement in any plot. All right, those are details that await you on page 6 of the Daily Sun newspaper today. It's quite scanty on the front page of the Daily Sun, but let's see how much of consolation we can find from This Day newspaper, where we have much more headlines.
All right, let's quickly flip to This Day newspaper this morning, where we have a couple of headlines. And of course, on This Day newspaper this morning, beginning from the top of the paper, it said new service chiefs get Senate confirmation, vow reform to tackle insecurity, boost troops' welfare. Very vital. Then we have some other headlines there. Just one rider to that first story, which says, NAS okays Tinubu's request for new external borrowing to finance 2025 budget deficit, refinance maturing euro bonds, okay? Then I also have this, of course, which says, all right, let's move away from there and go to the big story now. The big story is staring at me, so it needs to be taken. NNPC shops for equity partners to high-grade its comatose refineries. NNPC shops for equity partners to high-grade its comatose refineries. Some riders to that story. Port Harcourt, Warri, Kaduna facilities will work, says Ojulari. Ojulari is the one saying this. A price to rise further as federal government approves 15% tariff on imported fuel. Official letter indicates it will trigger 99.72%, 72 naira per litre increase in Lagos. I take that again. Official letter indicates it will trigger 99.72 naira per litre increase in Lagos State. Then the last rider to that story says, but argues it will allow domestic refiners to cover costs. Arewa Forum meets Shetima. Whatever the discussion is, if you want to find out, pick a copy of This Day newspaper. Our federal government bows to public pressure, reverses pardon list. Oh my God. I'm just thinking how it's going to be after the celebration, you know,
Right.
after the joy, after the mental settlement. Maybe some of them are undergoing some rehabilitation process, as it were. Then you just hear, in fact, this might even lead to maybe mental or psychological issues. Complications as it is right now. But then only the federal government know why they had to reverse that as a result of pressure. But then these are the headlines that we can take from this paper so far.
All right, let's look at our last paper on this segment, which is the Nation newspaper. Just about two headlines as we see here on the Nation newspaper this morning. Top right corner first. It says 55 persons removed from presidential pardon list. 55, so that leaves you with 120 because the original list was 175. Then it says only 120 enjoy prerogative of mercy, and that headline has a picture of the Attorney General of the Federation, who doubles as the Minister of Justice, Prince Lateef Fagbemi, SAN. All right, the last one here tells us 2027 Southwest's governors, leaders rally behind Tinubu. Ministers give scorecards at Confab. Those are your headlines from the papers this morning. Please be sure to read up details for yourself. That way you'll be able to stay ahead of the news. And remember that all the headlines we bring to you here, they are exactly as published by the respective publishers. Global Television or the team on Global Morning here does not in any way contribute to their content. When we return shortly Ogochukwu Mobuna will bring us Social Pass. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Hello and good morning. Welcome to Social Buzz here on Global Morning. You know, on Social Buzz, we bring you trending issues from around the world. When it's trending on social media, we are bringing it right here to your screen. I am your host, Ogochukwu Mobino. And today there has been something on the internet, on social media recently, that is really a bit troublesome. And, you know, it's really worrisome to see that things like this still happen. So we're going to be talking about a Ghanaian teacher who is calling on the government to pay himself and other male teachers self-control allowance because the female students are becoming very attractive to him. So this Ghanaian teacher actually put up a video via his, via his Snapchat page to see he just cannot take it anymore, and it's not easy to control himself being surrounded around these young teenagers who, are his students. I would like us to watch that short clip.
Education. I stand for my colleagues, the teachers. In fact, we deserve self-control allowance. Teachers, we deserve self-control allowance. Because looking at these young girls nowadays, teachers, we are suffering. Ghana teachers, we are suffering. Abai, we deserve self-control allowance. Teachers self-control allowance, because it's not easy. It is not easy for a teacher to control himself for 3 good years teaching these kids. Because nowadays, the kind of food they are eating and the kind of hygiene they are putting on, it makes them look attractive. But they are very young, and it's not easy for us to control ourselves. And the Minister of Education, we are pleading, please. Oh dear, boy, why? Because said they are yeah, bro, and Quarano, ebi hu of papa, and yeah, easy. Until now, me as a teacher, I'm standing for my colleagues, because to have a self-control for 3 good years teaching the kids is not easy. And some people used to tag us that we are the ones spoiling the students. For what reason? How can we spoil these students? Imagine you were a teacher and you don't have self-control. Will you leave them to go like that? Yeah, bro. Enquarani susa. Now so akona ewo
In as much as I want to, deny what is happening and ask myself and tell myself this is content. On the other hand, I can't even get to listen to a content like this. Well, before we dive right into the conversation proper, I would like to take some comments from social media as regard this video. And the first comment is coming from Comet Quincy 2. And he said, he should be arrested for even saying this out loud. I stand for my colleagues, even think about this. Teachers. He's guilty and will do something fishy soonest. The next one is coming from B. Iyazi. And B says, this is definitely not funny. It's disturbing. It shouldn't be anywhere near a school. The last but not the least comment is coming from a guy. This is coming from Pet Aga. And this person said, you should be relieved of your job immediately for having this mentality in the first place. Students are not safe in your hands. That's how he ends his comment. Students are not safe in the hands of the teacher. Well, I'm not alone today doing this. I am with someone in the studio, and that's Uyi Agbomofwebe. Good morning, Uyi.
Good morning, Ogochukwu. As always, it's quite a delight to be here.
Thank you so much. All right, so we actually went through that video. We watched the video, we heard the commentary from this man and from this teacher. I just don't want to call him just a random person. He is a teacher. And I must tell you that immediately I saw that video, when I watched it and I listened to what he was saying, I was disturbed. And, I fear for those students. Please, what's your contribution to this?
I like how you used the term. It's a bit hilarious. You said the commentary, all right, by the teacher. Quite a commentary there, really. But again, the good book says, out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. All right. So if you, I don't know what the goal is. Maybe it's content, because these days people have gone crazy in the name of content. I'm not so sure what his objective was from the get-go. But let's just say you wanted to put a message out there, for example. Did it have to be this one? Because when you look at what you've said now, it's very clear where your attention is, where your energy is directed. All right. It's obvious what takes the bulk of your time, your mental energy while you're in school, or even while you are not in school. And you think this is funny, but obviously it's not in any way. Because if you wanted to ask for any kind of allowance, I think this sort of allowance you have asked for is not just embarrassing, it's shameful. This is a school where you have young girls. Who knows, maybe it's an all-girls school, which even makes it worse than it seems right now. I was just talking to Ogochukwu behind the cameras a while ago. I said, this guy probably have two options in front of him now. Either to start a business as quickly as possible or get to look for another job. Because it will appear this video has gone viral. So the authorities may have seen it. So off the top of my head, I'm curious to know how would the authorities react or respond to this video? Because ultimately the protection of those young girls is paramount. And you don't want to take the very heavy risk of having such a potentially dangerous person, I should say, in their midst.
Thank you so much, Oye, for your contribution. Honestly, if you leave the matter to be in the hands of people at this point, when I was going through that video, the only thing that was in my head is, please arrest this man, take him to court, jail him, and make sure he never comes out, because this person, even though he's not in the school premises, I think this is his thoughts. You know, the thought of a man, like you said, when you're quoting the good books, whatever it is you think, that's what you say. It has been in your heart for a long time. So for him to say this, I just feel like no female is actually safe with him. I'm really scared for the other gender, the female gender, my gender. I'm really, really scared, being close to this kind of person. You can't be looking at your students who are under you, who feel like you are the wings that is supposed to protect them, because as a teacher, you're supposed to protect your students. Making them feel very uncomfortable, and even having the guts to come outside, holding your camera, your phone, to speak like this is really, really not cool. I hope also that the government, swing into action immediately and do the needful just to protect the girls. Thank you so much for being part of this morning show. Thank you so much, Oye, once again for your contribution to this topic. And till I come your way next time, it's Social Boards, and I'm your host, Ogochukwu. Do stay with us as Global Morning continues.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Well, let's get into the first discussion on Global Morning today. We'll be looking at the economy. A lot of people have said so many things about the economy, some for and some against. But then I think it will be better if we engage experts to talk to us on these issues. Today, we have a political economist. Of course, he's an expert, he's an economist, and he's going to be joining us on the conversation this morning. Dr. Ilyas Aliyu is joining us on the conversation this morning. It's good to have you join us on the conversation this morning, Doctor.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, you're welcome. Now, a lot of people have said so many things about the economy. Some people are saying that we are on the right trajectory. Some persons are saying the hurdles is so much. Some persons are saying it's nothing different than what we've been having, and what we are hearing from the government is nothing different than what we've been hearing. On your own part, as an expert, what do you think about Nigeria's economy right now as we speak?
Right. So, Nigeria economy, it's on a good trajectory. However, it does not reflect in people's disposable income, which is very, very critical. You agree with me that most of the indicators are positive. We are seeing that they are moving in the right direction, but we must also ensure that it reflects the people's pockets, and that could be a result of a lag time, because we have lead time and lag time. You know, when you bring out new policy or when you bring out new thing, or by the time new things are happening, before it will reflect, it will take a lot of time, and that's why government needs to do more. Perhaps it might be also covering a particular hole and opening another one, and that's why we must look at it critically. You recall that our inflation, a lot of things bring about the inflation. We have imported inflation. We have inflation that is the demand pull inflation. We have cost push inflation. We also have legacy problems. So you may be looking at it from the periphery, or the government look at it downward to actually solve people's real problems. And the problem is not far from energy security, cost of transportation, and the cost of living.
All right. The issue of borrowing, a lot of people are saying, well, this is the economy that we have, but the government keeps borrowing. Just a few days ago, there was a push for borrowing, which is getting approval as we speak. Does this in any way affect the economy?
Right. Borrowing itself is what we need to examine critically. Critically in the sense that we have to look at it. What are we borrowing for? What's the benefit of borrowing? Why are we borrowing? What is it for? And is the borrowing part of the budget? Remember, we are running a deficit budget. And in deficit budget, it's possible that this borrowing has been captured, and I'm sure it has been captured that there will be borrowing. The onus is now on the National Assembly to say, yes, the executive, we have gotten more money from custom. We have gotten more money from FIRS. We are getting more money from fuel subsidy removal. Can we tarry a bit in terms of borrowing? This is what we need to look at. Are they actually borrowing to solve some legacy issue like infrastructure, building of hospital, building of social infrastructure, education, the building of classrooms, fixing of road. If this is what we are borrowing for me, it's not a bad borrowing, simply because even the best of the economy globally are borrowing, and in fact they are the highest borrower. If you look at the trajectory of Nigeria also, Lagos is the highest income earner in terms of states, but Lagos also borrow more. But you also see the results in Lagos, because you see their blue rain, their rain, you can see their yellow rain, red, and their rain is coming up, a lot of things. And if they are borrowing for such focus, I don't think it's anything bad. The only problem is that, are we borrowing for capital expenditure? If yes, it's a good borrowing.
All right. If yes, it's a good borrowing. Now, one of the things that Nigerians are particular about is, sometimes Nigerians don't even understand these languages. Rise in inflation, fall in inflation, borrowing, and all of that. That's Nigerian at the grassroots, in the village, in the community somewhere, that peasant farmer somewhere. What they know is the prices of commodity in the market is not affordable, as it were, or we don't have money in our hands and all of that. How can we marry this economic situation with that? At what level can we have abundance, of food supply in connection with the state of the nation and economy?
Right. The fact remains that we all go to the markets, and we all go to markets to buy goods and commodities. The major problem now is that there's one thing I like to raise first, which talks about food sufficiency. The drive by this government, I don't see, it's not clear to me yet, because I recall that during Jonathan, in terms of agriculture, Akiwumi, the former Minister of Agriculture during Jonathan, did a lot to actually help farmers by strategically giving them fertilizer to make sure that their produce are coming out well, and they are buying fertilizer at very low rates. You also recall during President Muhammadu Buhari, there's what is called anchor borrower. And for me, anchor borrower actually worked to an extent, even though there are some political farmers. Anchor borrower worked to an extent, to the extent that we have some level of sufficiency in rice. So I was thinking this government will come on board and still invest in those areas. It may not only focus on rice, there are other farm produce that you can focus on, that Nigeria could be self-sufficient. But the way I'm looking at it, our border is open now, and we could see that a lot of food items are coming in, which seem to make the cost of food to come down. However, for me, it's like we are pushing it forward. We're supposed to do, because I recall President Bola Ahmed Tinubu during 2023 August, he declared emergency of food security. I've also seen in September also talked to the Minister of Agriculture to make sure they crash the food price. This is where Nigeria's major problem is, the price of food. And if you look at our inflation basket, the weighted basket itself, 40% of it is food. So when you see inflation rise, that means food is expensive. So for me, I could say that yes, food item to an extent is coming down because of our border opening. But the question is that, does Nigeria even have the purchasing power to buy it? Because the value of Naira is also critical in this case. So yes, rice has come down, a lot of prices have come down, but the fact is that what is our disposable income? And that's where even Dr. Okonjo-Iweala was reiterating on that it's not enough to have a stable economy. You must also grow the economy. And how do you grow the economy? Is by ensuring that citizens have more money in their pocket to actually buy. But if you look at this policy of this government also, it takes a lot from people's pocket, because you have to expend a lot, above 50% on food. You have to expend over 25 to 30% of your income on transportation. How do you now manage other sundry costs? So the government must be people's focus now, whereby they will ensure that things are in abundance and come down as expected. If we can achieve that level of sufficiency, I think people who have more money in their pockets And Nigeria will now say yes. The most touted stability in the economy, in naira, in inflation, increase in GDP are reflected. So until we see all these indicators, that's when we'll say yes, we are now a better economy. So people are still waiting for that period. Perhaps, like I said, maybe first quarter of next year, we'll start seeing the results, as it were.
Okay. While you were speaking, you talked about policy. You made mention of policy while you were speaking. Now, let's do a little assessment of the Tinubu-led administration as it has to do with policy formation, all right, in connection with the state of the nation and economy, and of course, impacts on the people themselves. Do you see, what's your own assessment of this administration's concern, okay, for the people as it has to do with the state of the economy? Because whatever happens, just like you were talking about it right now, trickle down to the average Nigerian. The policies that we've heard since the inception of this administration, is it people friendly? What's your assessment of it?
Right. Let's talk about the biggest of the policy, which is simply removal of fuel subsidy. You know, it's becoming a propaganda. It's becoming an excuse for the federal government. Anytime you talked about Nigeria, they say, no, don't look at them, federal governments only, look at subnationals. That subnationals now have more money in their pockets. But the question is that how has the subnational ensure that the money they are getting in their pocket trickle down to Nigerians and have impact on Nigerians? Those are the things we need to actually look at. Now, the subnationals are getting more money, but I can tell you the value of the money is another problem. Because as at 2022, if you have 1 billion as a state, can conveniently construct a road, some level of kilometers. But if you have the same amount now and you want to construct, the value is a bit different. And that's why we said sometimes those states also need to come out, just like the report we got to hear from our budget that talks about the country states that are self-sufficient in terms of generating revenue and states that are managing the FAC allocation very well. There's a scorecard on that. That simply reflects that we need to do more. Government also must develop a policy framework that trickles from down to the bottom. How do I mean? We have seen successive administration that have policy framework. That's what the federal government is doing. The state is consolidating what they are doing, and the local government is also involved. And the private sector also key into it. So until this government come with that kind of a focus, I recall there was a time that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu said he is going to give each state 10 billion naira for CNG buses and what have you. We've not seen the reflection of it in the economy. I also recall that the same 2023 said there's going to be a culture that each state is going to cultivate some level of hectares of land. We've not seen that result as well. So these are the things government need to be conscious about. So if you are giving more money, you must also be on their neck to guide them on what's your policy direction. So for me, we have more money and we don't see the reflection. So this is the challenge. But we can actually mention some states that actually do well. Because I noticed during that period, I saw Governor Bago of Niger State procuring a lot of tractor, for agriculture. So if most states start doing that, to now reflect by now that yes, Nigeria is moving forward. So I think the reforms are good, but we must be able to manage the consequences of those reforms.
All right. While you were talking about subnationals, it reminded me of the fact that the president came out categorically to say, even during his independence broadcast, he still mentioned it, that money realized from subsidy now goes to the state governors. That's it. But we've not seen anything done from the governors, except that you are mentioning Bago now, that has actually boosted the economy. That is one. We just heard that about 4 trillion naira will be going to the governors, all right, annually from the tax reform.
Now the question is this. As a matter of fact, to be factual, with all of these issues, do you think there is a better way to channel these resources instead of sending it to these governors? Because there is this ideology of who is going to hold me responsible. You see them doing whatever they want to do, and this money keeps going to them and the impact is not felt. As an economist, what do you think? What other proper way do you think these monies can be channeled so that at least the impact can be felt in the economy of this nation? Because that's our pride.
Right. So I think the first thing we should be able to fix and correct is the issue of joint account between the state and local government. So the state and local government have joint account. That simply means that any income that is coming to the state, and state will now determine which project is their own priority for those local governments. For us to have an efficient and flourishing Nigeria, we must have an independent local government who gets the allocation right from the federal government and make do of the allocation for what they actually wanted to use it for. That's where we can solve it. Because it is clear, what a local government list may not be the priority list of what the states or state governors actually wanted. State governors might be looking at a project that will be, come and commission that will look at it, but local government may be seeing beyond that. Maybe their problem could be roads, could be more classrooms, could be more health facilities. So these are the things. So if more money goes to the states and local government does not have their own directly, it's still more of a jamboree for the states, because the states should be able to manage its own states, internal generated revenue, allocation, and leave local government to actually implement what they need to implement. And even consequently, citizens will be able to also follow the money. I recall during Jonathan and Okonjo-Iweala era, they will, by every month, there will be a kind of notification on newspapers that says that these are the allocations, and this one goes to local government A, this one goes to local government B across the 774 local government. So citizens in that area can actually follow the money and look at it. Okay, you say you will build a classroom, we will not seen it. We can question that. But if it is still states, what I do, that simply means the Supreme Court rule that talks about autonomy for local government is still a fluke.
Okay, something came to my mind while you were speaking, and that is the issue of corruption and how it affects economic growth and nation building, especially as it has to do with people in authority into whose hands this money is being entrusted. Take, for instance, the issue of the humanitarians ministry. When Betta Edu Frost came into office, a lot of promises were made, and one or two things happened, and that vision and everything she promised was cut short. I believe that may have affected the economy in a way, as it has to do with the average Nigerians. Now, what do you think is the implication of corruption on economic growth as an expert?
Right. So I think Nigeria needs palliative now than ever before, simply because different households. In fact, you will see that the Federal Ministry of Finance, led by Wale Edo, said they are increasing the household, palliative to about more 10 million household as well. That simply shows that Nigeria are in their need of such. I think we need to strengthen our institutions and work on our process. I think what happened during Betta Edu was institutional problem, because when you have an approval has to pass some process. Recall, she also came to the ministry to maintain the processes. Perhaps there's a clash of interest. That's what led to her having issue. So the fact is that corruption is everywhere. Corruption is a cankerworm that is bedeviling the Nigerian economy in different areas. Until the federal government, led by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, decide to actually look into that critically. During the President Muhammadu Buhari was able to do single treasury accounts that actually reduce it to an extent. I think they need to strengthen it more, whereby every naira and kobo pass through those areas, and there will be a thorough procurement process, because all this corruption comes through procurement process. They must be make sure that those things are key. And we have not seen this one of the administration, except that I do bring to even her case is not. I'm not sure. I don't know the status of it in the courts now. But we must do more to make sure that we curb corruption. Nepotism is part of corruption too. Excessive budgeting is part of the corruption too. Lack of proper social register is also a problem, because most Nigerians are questioning the social register, and the government is saying yes, they don't want to release the social register. So I think it should not be a political social register. It should be a social register that record with people's status and side of living. Maybe through the traditional ruler in the community can say yes, this person is poor, this person is actually rich. Because I remember, was it Rwanda when I was there? There's this method which they use. Maybe when it's called that you are poor, you'll be given 2 cows this year, let's say 3 cows. And by the time you have it for 2-3 years consecutively, you expect it to have scaled up. And they will also use traditional rulers to monitor what you actually do. So we must make sure that we bring our poverty reduction program home. It should be a bottom-up approach, not that people sit in their offices under the air condition and decide poverty reduction. It should be designed to suit people. And also, we should not use a one-size-fits-all in poverty reduction. What someone in Bayelsa needs, to survive is not what someone in Kano needs. It's not the same thing as what someone in Ibadan needs. So we must go local and understand what people actually need. Some people do not even need you to give them a handout of 25,000 naira per month. They only need you to make a feeder road in their community. They need you to make sure that fishing is in their community. They only need you to put security in their community. That can actually have much more effect than an intervention. Poverty reduction that lasts for 3 months or 4 months.
Okay, Doctor, thank you very much. Now, let's look at the National Assembly now. Do you know that whatever happens, as it has to do with the economy, they blame everyone. The person they have in their mouth is the president. Everybody will say, well, President Bola Tinubu, but the National Assembly also have a role to play. Take, for instance, this borrowing that we're talking about. Nobody is even saying, well, we have this on ground, this strategy on ground, or maybe this, let's say, for instance, step by step on how this debt is going to be cleared. Everyone was excited when Nigeria's debt was cleared. Was it during Okonjo-Iweala or so as a Minister of Finance? Now we are into borrowing again. The National Assembly, which was accused by some persons earlier that they are rubber stamp. I think I heard that from very prominent politicians some times back, which is an allegation anyway. Now, what do you think is the role of the National Assembly as it has to do with economic policy making, not just saying take a bow alone?
Right. The first thing is that I will agree with you largely because, there is no borrowing that will not come to National Assembly. So they are expected to scrutinize such borrowings that doesn't really fit to what you actually need, doesn't fit to capital project that we want to embark on. These are the things, and beyond borrowing too, they also have the first responsibility of them. It's not even lawmaking. For me, the first responsibility is oversight function. And oversight function is key to the extent that any appropriation must actually be used for what is actually scheduled for. And whoever abuse that process or did not use it as expected, should be bring to book. These are the things that we expect National Assembly to do. They should do their oversight function. Not only National Assembly, also State Assembly. Once there is an appropriation and the money is released, they should also follow it up so that those things are actually carried out. Imagine if all our borrowings, if all our budgetary allocation are actually doing what they said they should do. By now, we should move beyond this. Though we have a lot of debt servicing that is still taking a loss from what we're supposed to use for social infrastructure in Nigeria. But by and large, I think the National Assembly needs to do more to carry out their oversight function. You know, if you approve a budget, you should also do well to follow it up to make sure that it is expended for what is actually planned for.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Ilyas Aliyu. He is a political economist and human affairs analyst also. We are so glad to have you join us on the conversation this morning. Well,
thank you for having me.
All right. As it is, this is going to be the size of the first conversation. The second conversation will be coming in after now. Please stay with us.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Conversation around 2027 election is getting louder by the day. Of course, we can wave it off as being all politics. But in the end, all else equal, leadership, forward-thinking leadership, that is essentially what Nigerians look forward to. The men and women that will provide that leadership starting from 2027. However, it will appear the elements of women, as it were, in that conversation is largely missing. Since 1999, when the country returned to democracy, today what we refer to as the Fourth Republic, Nigeria has not produced a female governor, not the ones who become governors accidentally, at the poll. We haven't seen that just yet. Add to that the fact that we are still having a back and forth, some sort of very vehement debates as to whether or not there are no-go areas for women as far as leadership is concerned. Plus, what are the factors, culturally and otherwise, inhibiting women from breaking that or shattering the so-called glass ceiling? Well, some women say the ceiling has already been shattered. We'll find out in the course of our conversation this morning on the show. I am joined by someone who has a background and a very robust experience in this regard to help us find some sense. This is Nafisa Atiku Adejuwon. She's the Executive Director, NAF Foundation for Young Women. Well, they say catch them young, and it's good to have you, by the way, on the show today.
All right, thank you so much for inviting me. It's good to be here.
Great. So let's begin with where we are today in Nigeria, for example. When we talk about leadership, it appears the pivot is politics. Is that an aberration?
No, I don't think so, and I think it's very much needed at this point in time, right? We are at a critical juncture, I would like to say, in our country's development, not just development for saying's sake, but sustainable development that, ensures that not just a particular segment of the population is catered for, represented, but everybody is carried along. And, if you do a lot of research, you hear a lot of phrases being thrown about political economy, how politics influences other different parts, of the economy and the sector of women's lives as well. And there's something that we also say within, the gender equality feminism space, that the personal is political. Why? Because the interests, our well-being and things are being legislated upon within the National Assembly, State Houses of Assembly, Federal House of Assembly, and the Senate. And if we don't have women within those spaces, young women, older generation of women, all types of women, speaking truth to power, representing our interests, and making sure that women are carried along, irrespective of who you are, where you are, within the country, then we have a problem, right? So what we have right now is the basic explanation of the personal is in the political and the political is personal. A lot of critical stakeholders are realizing that for not just Nigeria, but also Africa to have a level of sustainable development, for women to be properly represented and catered for, and our interests and needs are aligned so that they can not just exist in society to survive, but to thrive, we need to get political. We need to enter those political spaces and use power for the greater good. So it's a definitely multi-year conversation, and we can see all the uproar and support that has now been given to the reserve seats bill. That's just, you know, an after effect of, you know, all the agitations, all the concerns, and you know, just really the agitations of women nationwide.
As it stands today, there are several stereotypes about women and leadership, right? How many more do we need to tear down going forward?
I would like to say that we probably need to tear down everything. You know, we don't just look at stereotypes in a vacuum. We look at stereotypes in the context of culture, right, and tradition, and who we are as a people and what we believe as a people. Fundamentally, we all know that Nigeria is a patriarchal society, as it is with most of the African countries that we have. I think the most notable example right now is Namibia, because Namibia is substantially matriarchal. We can see that that's reflected in its leadership, which is a good thing. We need a positive example, right? But, you know, our stereotypes are cushioned or draw their legitimacy from the pervasive culture of the day. And because we have a patriarchal society that, you know, puts men at the top of every leadership structure, believes that men should be at the top of every leadership structure, it has now led to certain inequalities and inequities and stereotypes and cultural norms that have subjugated women, has silenced their voices, and has limited the ability for them to express themselves and express their potential, not just, you know, in nation building, but also economic, different economic spheres of, you know, the country. So, if we want to talk about stereotypes, we can literally we can go all day, we can go all morning.
Sort of an endless list, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an endless list. You know, if a woman eats cow feet, she's going to be like this. You know, women that speak like me are stubborn. You know, I remember, you know, when I went home at that point in time, I think I was engaged to my husband, and another man saw me, asked me a question on my several perspectives on issues that were happening in the country, and I spoke. Well, I'm a lawyer. I was trained as a lawyer. I graduated in 2015. That's like 10 years ago, right? And then, you know, by the time I finished talking, he said, you will find it hard to find a husband. That you are too stubborn and outspoken and strong-willed. And I was like, what's the meaning of that? You know, at that point in time, I had, of course, I was engaged to my current husband, and, you know, we met in politics. He was the national youth leader of COA Party at the time, and I was a member of COA Party who was supporting me campaigns for state House of Assembly aspirants, you know, campaigning and supporting, you know, everything that they were doing. So there are so many stereotypes. If, you know, she needs to have time for her home, it's a bit too much. Education exposes them. Once you expose them like that, they will not be able to submit. And some, like I said, most of them, not most of them, all of them are grounded in the cultural context of the day. And the truth is that culture exists to preserve a people. And if that culture is not preserving the people but destroying the moral fabric and destroying the people, then the culture needs to change, the stereotypes need to change to evolve with the times.
That sounds like a lot of work to do. Yes, but let's start peeling it off one layer at a time, right? Sure. If you look at Nigeria today, we've seen a female House of Representatives speaker, even though that in itself came with a lot of fights and scandal at the end. Yeah. We've seen a handful of deputy governors, female deputy governors, that is. Today we're talking about the reserved seats for women.
Yeah.
On a scale of 10, how much of progress are we making in this regard?
Honestly, I would say 5, and that's me being very generous. That's me being very generous because we have had opportunity. When it comes to gender equality and women's representation in political spaces, we're one of the worst in the world.
Not just in Africa.
Not just in Africa. I just don't have the stats in my head, but I know and I read it. We're one of the worst in the world. It's reflected on the Interparliamentary Union website and database. You go and check it. For a country that calls itself the giant of Africa, we are not improving our status, or we're not cementing our status when it comes to sustainable development and the inclusion of women, in political spaces, which is key to a sustainable democracy. And democracy, by nature, it's one of its fundamental features is that it's supposed to be inclusive. And we're not doing well on that, right? So in terms of how well we are doing, 5 is being very generous, and that is really because of all the support that has been given to the reserve seats bill. If that did not happen in this current legislative dispensation, I would probably say a 2 or a 3. Because think about it, the different African countries that have made progress in terms of gender equality and putting women in political spaces have different institutional, systemic, and structural mechanisms. So that it's not just a rhetoric, but it is actionable in policy implementation and in operational implementation, not just on the policy side, but also on the administration side within government. Because once it is institutionalized within government, it then rolls out to different parts of the society, the public sector, the private sector, the CSOs, NGOs, everywhere. And government hasn't done that. Do we have a gender monitoring office? Do we have institutionalized mechanisms within our National Assembly to ensure that women are represented, not just as political faces, but within the civil society, the administrative arm of the National Assembly? What about the federal ministries? So is it only federal Ministry of Women Affairs? You have women everywhere. What about, I had a conversation with someone in Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and I was saying, when I was growing up, that working within the Federal Ministry for Foreign Affairs was something I could see myself doing. And he said, you're a woman, you're married, and no, he doesn't advise me to do that because we travel a lot, it can be disorienting for women like you. And I was like, I don't understand. So, these are things that should not exist if you have institutionalized mechanisms to ensure that, diversity and inclusion are represented across all systems of government and not just federal character, because I know federal character comes as a result of our diversity as a nation, and that is institutionalized in our constitution. But we also need to talk about gender equality as a government concern, a high government concern that deserves a lot of political will.
I'm happy you're a lawyer and you are not only passionate about issues around women and gender equality, you're invested in it, right?
Yes, definitely.
There are people who say, look, let's not lie to ourselves. Let's stop living in denial. There's no such thing as gender equality. We should be talking about gender equity. How do we strike a balance?
So my answer to that question is context. People usually differentiate between the two. I know there was an International Women's Day where it was more about gender equity, and this is the conversation about gender equity, right? That, interventions must be more specific to the context. So, for example, imagine, 2 kids are there. One is shorter, one is a bit taller. There is a fence. That's a classic example. And then they need to see above to, see the tree. So you give them both the same type of stool. But the point is, even if you give them the same type of stool to reach over and see the tree, the one that is shorter will still not be able to see because they're still shorter. So the one that is shorter needs a taller stool, and then the one that is taller needs like maybe a medium-sized stool, so that
just to even up.
Yes, to even up, right? So that's the conversation, and what you can get from that example is context. Right, gender equality mechanisms and gender equality, gender equity, however we want to phrase it, right? It needs context. The measures that are applicable in Nigeria will not be the measures that will be applicable in Iceland.
Right.
Which is doing very well, by the way. Right? Why? Because the society is different. The culture is different. The way of living is different. So when we talk about, it's like saying, democracy is good for everyone. People disagree. Some people disagree. Some people think that democracy should change because look at what is happening across the African continent. Democracy is literally taking a beating, and it's taking a lot of people power in order to keep it in place, right? But, democracy on its own is an ideal. It has several underlying fundamental features that are non-negotiable. However, that democracy then plays out in society is left to interpretation. But the fundamental features is what makes it democracy. It what makes it that ideal to aspire to. I think that's the same conversation we need to have about gender equality and gender equity conversations. There are several underlying features that make it what it is, that make it an ideal. How that is interpreted in society in the context of in the context of cultures and traditions and systems is what is yet, to be seen. So I don't think that we should take we should be like AI, take what AI says and slam dunk and apply it. I think we should think about these things in context.
Right. So we're already talking about 2027, no doubt about that.
Definitely.
Of course, women are jumping in the conversation as well. But if a woman were to stand for, to run for president in 2027, what outcome do you see, given what we know today?
No, I'm not trying to be a naysayer, but she's definitely not going to win.
Why is that?
Because I think 2027 is too high stakes an election for us. We can already see how the political ecosystem is tilting towards, this is not a political show, but tilting towards a particular party. So, people are trying to split themselves into two camps. So, for example, if the opposition produces a female presidential candidate, definitely we'll say, okay, the chances are better. But we all know that as we are society structured right now, 2027 is too tricky. What I would say should be the top priority for women candidates heading into the 2027 elections would be to focus on the state houses of assembly, the Federal House of Assembly, and the Senate House. They have a significant amount of power, and that is where you can really build power blocks and able to influence policy and influence power shifts come 2021. Politics is a long-term game. Serving, the people in political office is a really long-term game. It's not something you bump into and you say, I'm going to, unless you're like Barack Obama, who just, it was like, how do I put it? There is a word that they use for it, Kairos. It's Kairos moment. It hit him. But even at that, he had still been serving for quite a while.
There was a trajectory of service.
Yes, there was a trajectory of service.
Right.
So, I think coming from where we are as women, where we can see how the figures are really, really low, to put further emphasis on this, the time that we had the most women within political office, within the legislative arm, was in 2007. That was a long time ago.
Right.
And, there isn't enough data to say why that exactly happened. But we can see now we have like about how many, 12 or 13 within and then we know some unfortunately have passed away within the Federal House. From where we are right now, the most actionable practical step for me would be to say, we should concentrate on the legislative arm. Already the reserve seats bill is making a lot of inroads, and we want to see how that goes. If it does pass, then we by default have reserve seats for women, and 2027 will look a lot different. It will now be saying which woman is going to enter into these seats. It's now going to be a conversation of competence, character, and capacity.
But at that point, the gender bracket would have been locked.
Yes, it would have. Obviously, that would be the most we've ever had. Right. But for me, I think that is where we should concentrate. Also within the FCT, we have the local government elections. I know some young women who are also running. That is also a good place to start from the grassroots, because politics and service really is about the people, and you can't just go from here and jump to federal. They will tell you.
So you build from the ground up.
You do from the ground up. You have to be, even if you're not running from the ground up, but you need to build structure from the ground up.
Right.
You need to know your ward people. You need to know your state people. You need to know your local government people and start to eat. Because think about it now. Why would somebody fall out with his party leader as a high-ranking politician, and the next thing they're from their wards they're expelling him? They matter. Do you understand? So I think we need to be practical and strategic in the way what women are planning for 2027.
I need to ask you this real quick. We have a handful of women, both in the House of Representatives and in the Senate. Yes, of course, we can say the numbers are not far-reaching, right? But at least we do have women presence in both chambers. If you look at their impact today, how impressed or otherwise are you?
To be honest, I would say they are doing their best. We have Honorable Kafilat Okbara, who has always been at the forefront of, gender equality conversations, the reserve seats bill. We have male champions within the House of Representatives, Speaker Honorable Tajuddin Abbas. So to be honest, there are not many. And when you are not many, which is why, there is power in numbers, there is only so much you can do, because you're definitely swimming against the tides. We can see how women have sought to speak up within the Senate House and how they have been silenced. That's not the conversation for today, but it is worth mentioning. All right, and we see some of the, existing senators keeping quiet because they don't want the kind of stigmatization that comes with, being bold and speaking up within the, the context and the atmosphere of which the current legislative arm is propagating right now. So honestly, what I can say is that they are strong women in the midst of very demanding and heavy odds. And, can we do better? We definitely can do better. But right now, honestly, I feel like they are doing their best.
There are people who believe, quite frankly, I'm not so sure how dispassionate or otherwise they are in their assessment, but they feel the Natasha moment, I'd like to call it that, has redefined the political landscape in Nigeria, especially from the gender perspective. Do you share that sentiment?
Yeah, I share that sentiment, and it was sad that it happened, within the Women's Month as well, which was, it was really sad because, a lot of civil society advocates said, we've been fighting for these rights for how many years now, and it's just shameful and just shows how, derogatory as we are as a society, that could be done to a female senator, because it shows that no matter how much power you have, right, that sort of disrespect is coming one way or the other. No matter what office you occupy, whether you are the president, the vice president, the Senate leader, who would think that, a whole Natasha Akpoti, we all know what she stood up to the former governor of Kogi State, Yahaya Bello. They had their own faces, and a woman like that is going through, most of us don't even have the kind of effrontery she has, and she went through that process. It could have definitely been handled better.
You don't think she's overstepping her bounds, do you, in any way?
I think, and I think this is a conversation about what happened that day. I want to give an example, but I'm trying to be sensitive, especially because we're on live television. Take for instance, if I'm standing right here and someone comes up to me and maybe manhandles me, tries to beat me up or something, and right before I left home, I yelled at my gatesman and I said some not nice things to him. I'm not going to do that, right? But just imagine. And then people witness that, and then they witness another person, beating me up or something. And they say, oh, she deserves it. Oh, she does this. Oh, she does this. Oh, she had it coming. The point is that the kind of behavior that was meted out to Senator Natasha Akpoti within the context of what was going on would be acceptable to be given to any woman within that stature and that position. So it's kind of divorcing, the triggers from the treatment that she was given. It's like another common analogy is like you're using a hammer to kill those very tiny ants that can't do anything. Right. Exactly. Because we've seen other male senators do worse. It's not in this country. They had that funny video, Naka Mapako, when one state house assembly was chasing the other one with the mantle.
Right.
We've seen male legislators do worse. And because a female senator said that she didn't want to sit on one seat, that she wanted to sit on one seat, and she had not been heard from her various motions, all of a sudden she has become the worst person on the earth. The other ones that were knocking and packing inside the houses of assembly, we've not told them that their behavior was bad. We have people that were climbing gates to oh no.
So you're saying we are having multiple standards here?
Yes, we are definitely having multiple standards.
All right, let's take a quick break, everyone, so we can have a breather. When we return, we'll look at young girls who are probably watching now and following the conversation. What exactly does the future hold for them in terms of leadership, and how can they be better mainstreamed, for want of better words, into what the big picture is for women in leadership, whether in the private or public sector in Nigeria? We'll unpack that for you behind this short break. Please stay with us. All right, Nafisa, I'd like us to start out this second part of the conversation with women in the private sector. I have followed that sector for, say, 15, 17 years, right? And I'm intrigued by what I see across sectors, within the private space. But sometimes I get curious, how much work do we need to do to pull some bulk of these resources into the public sector? For example, there are women who feel satisfied just being in the private sector, whether in finance, in insurance, in tech, in the academia, what have you. Is it not possible for us to leverage that and drive conversations around public service?
Yes, it is. It's just, it's just it's also another daunting conversation. We see that synergy between, the male political leaders and the male private sector leaders as well. I tend to think they do have that kind of synergy. It's just drawing me back to my public administration class when we were talking about, a high flyer in the private sector, will he want to move to a government agency? And all the government workers said, no way, stay in your private sector business and do your work.
Because he didn't rise through the ranks.
Not just because he did, they just felt like, doing government work, the politics, the pay, the conditions of service. So, that's a whole different conversation on, civil service within Nigeria, how civil service is deemed less attractive compared to private sector work. But you see the thing about private sector runs on profits and it moves according to what the market is telling them. So, for example, if I own a business, which I do, and it's telling me that if I invest in my women for them to be able to contribute in human resources, products and services, development of, different things that can bring a target market like women into my bank, into my business, I will do that. Do we still have issues of, women within the private sector? Because there's also data talking about the care economy, women peaking at a specific level and not rising through the ranks. But that's a whole different conversation, right? About women getting married, balancing children. But, there is subtle advocacy that is, going on there. I did something with the French embassy about a year ago talking about maternal health rights, especially in the context of the workplace. So it's a whole advocacy. But, like I said, I think the men do this better and they play better in terms of harmonizing private sector top leaders to male public officials or political leaders. You see, His Excellency, the current president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, meeting with Dangote, meeting with Tony Lumelu, and having all those conversations. What conversations are they having? Business-oriented conversations. How do we expand the oil and gas industry in order to be able to position the country, strongly within the AFCTA, within globally in terms of oil production, those kind of things. And we also have women titans leading industries. We have Blessing Awoshika. We all know her, who was the previous director at, I think, First Bank, and she owns multiple businesses and multiple investments. We have
Ibukun Awoshika.
Yes, Ibukun Awoshika. Yeah. So, we have different women like that rising in different industries, owning different industries. Right. Some are out there, some are not. We do need that level of power and capital, whether it's social capital, financial capital, to then join forces with women who are in public sector governance or who are aspiring to public sector governance and sponsor them into those positions. Not sponsor them, dump a whole lot of money, but support them, in their ambitions, for such roles. Because when you do support it, it's a much stronger link. Do you understand? Especially when women from different parts of society are coming together. I think women in the civil society space do this well, right? But we do need women private sector leaders to come in from that space and then support women who are also gunning for public office as well.
Let's talk about how vital education is to leadership, especially for women. So, like I mentioned at the top of the conversation, there are people who believe women had long shattered the proverbial glass ceiling. Others believe, they are still working towards it. But how do we marry education with all of this? Is it enough to have the classroom approach to it, or should we radically rethink our approach to education as it relates to leadership for women?
Well, I think, it's not just for women, it's for everyone. Right? Radical approach, it depends on what you're speaking about. But of course, education is non-negotiable. Right. It's non-negotiable in every sense. I am really, really deeply concerned about northern Nigeria and, how many children are out of school. Because it's not, I know whenever we talk about, gender equality and gender equity, we always center women's and girls' lived realities and, their experiences. But we do need to evolve to a place where men and young boys are in the conversation. If not, we would have equipped and supported women and girls for a gender equal world without preparing the men and the boys as well on what it is to live in a gender equal world. And that's a problem, right? So the education is not just for, girls to say you are strong, you are capable, norms do not define you, you are, it's not just enough.
It's beyond that.
It's beyond that. The boys also need to learn that too, and that, I assume, should fall into our civic education, because it then needs to then make up some of the values that define us as a nation. If you look at the Africa 2063 agenda, one thing I was happy about, we were earlier discussing how, funding has been this year for and support for gender equality efforts. And then, some of us were just reading and researching and going through a lot of documents. And we went through the Africa 2063 agenda. And gender equality was one of the integral key frameworks for achieving sustainable development across the continent. So no one can say that the white man forced it on us. It is our own homegrown policy. It is our own homegrown continental value document that says this is how we want to achieve sustainable development across the continent. And Nigeria should buy into that. Our Ministry of Education and the NOA agency, different agencies that have to do Federal Ministry of Youth have to come together and somehow inculcate this within the curriculums, the messaging that our young people in this country are receiving as a whole. Because when you are then able to change the mindset or reconfigure the way that they think about society, where men and women have equal rights and can aspire to do what it is that they want to do within the context of the laws and the laws of a particular country, then things begin to shape up. We don't know how much we're losing as a country by not allowing women to enter into the spaces and to express who they really are. Especially in this economy, who wants to be having a one-income household when you're a man with maybe 3 to 4 children? Only you will be carrying the load. It's too much. That's why those men are just collapse everywhere. Anxiety, heart attack, high blood pressure. It's too much.
All right. Hopefully, I'm not receiving stray bullet on the show this morning. But let's talk about something that's very interesting. There are those who believe till today that former President Chief Olusegun Obasanjo is arguably Nigeria's most women-friendly president. And they say that on account of the sort of appointments he made while in office between 1999 and 2007. But it's been 18 years since he left office. Do you think we sustained that culture?
No, I don't think we sustained that culture. I think that, I believe he was a great president. I believe the data and the facts also speak for themselves in terms of where we were as a country when, they took over and where we are right now as a country, as it is. And I think the only time I saw that, if reflected a bit, was during President Goodluck's tenure.
Right.
Where, several key women were having high profile, ministries and, different appointments. And, I wasn't very old then, but it was, remember what I just said, the time we had, the most women within public office, legislative was in 2007.
Right.
And that was pretty much, within his own purview and administration. So you're right to say that he probably is, the most women, friendly president that we've had in this country, at least since 1999. We haven't sustained that. It's a shame. We should be doing a lot more to be able to not just get us back to that level, but amplify that. The country was good. Got off the Paris Club debt, a lot of things. Really, what other data do you need to speak for yourself than allowing competent, capable women into, offices like that? Sorry, there's this theory that says that, they usually allow women when the house is burning. So when the house is still intact, it's the men that take over the reins. And then, and it's not just, this doesn't just apply to public sector governance. It also applies to private sector as well. I mean, probably if you take some time to look at it, you will notice that most corporations, when they enter distress, they will now say, okay, there's this woman, this VP here, this might move her up, let her handle. Yes, it's actually a theory that people do investigate, right? As to why, people think that women are the most, the first port to call in times of disaster, whether the company is going down, whether the government is going, etc. Right? So I just think that the house should not be burning before women are let into the door to just throw water and, quench all the flames. Why don't you let women in so that we can prevent the flames from occurring in the first place?
Very, very interesting. Okay, maybe we should have a bonus question here. Do you think, when you look at how society is moving right now, the pace, the dynamics and everything else, is it your view that this Gen Z culture understands leadership, whether it's in the public or private sector, because it appears the thinking is just altogether different from where we are coming from as a people. So how do we, if you like, compel in some way the Gen Z bracket of girls to understand what leadership is? At least those core principles, those fundamentals don't change, do they?
No, they don't. So for me, when it comes to Gen Z conversations, I'm a millennial, so they'll say, this Gen Z, they don't know how to work. This is not how it is now. Time mental health, what? Right. Who are you? By 4 o'clock in the morning, I was up. I was, there's one thing I learned from Professor Chidi Odinkalu is that each generation needs to respect the differences of the other generation. Respect needs to be exchanged on both ends. If not, you're not going to get anywhere. Do I admit that Gen Z generation is different? Yes, but I choose to, focus on the positive differences. They have taught us how not to tolerate nonsense in a very good way. Do you understand? Do we have a lot to learn? I believe so. Do they have a lot to learn? I believe so, right? But, they are very ambitious in what they believe for themselves. They are very ambitious in the sense that they see leadership not as a top-bottom approach, or as a more collective, approach. Right. They are very into breaking norms and breaking systems. And to an extent, we do need that, especially within, the context and the historical moment in which we are in, that we do need to break ceilings. And we do need to shatter some certain norms and stereotypes that have existed for a long time, right? So they have come at an opportune time. But what we do need to do, right, and this is a conversation I've always had with different people, and it's also one of the things that my foundation is trying to do as much as possible, is to bridge the intergenerational gap. Like I said, respect for both generations. That intergenerational gap needs to happen so that both sides are learning from each other how to do better. What worked for you? What didn't work for me? What can I learn from you as you are learning from me? So they're an incredible generation. We have a lot to learn from them, but they also have a lot to learn from us, as we all generally have a lot to learn. It's life. You always have a lot to learn. But I love their passion. I love their creativity. I love the digital innovation that they bring across. I work with Gen Zs. They're amazing people. And, one of my best, workers is a certified Gen Z, and I know how she can sit on my head, but she's an incredibly dedicated worker. So I'm a Gen Z fan. All
right, all Gen Z fans. I'll be talking with Nafisa Atiku Adejuwon. She's the executive director, NAF Foundation for Young Women. She's been shedding light on issues around women and leadership in Nigeria, what more work we need to do, and then continue to push the frontiers. I'd like to say a big thank you to you for coming to share these valuable thoughts with us this morning. We're taking a quick break now, everyone. When we return, it will be time to wrap it up on Global Morning. Do stay with us. Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and international.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
What is your problem? What's your problem? We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
All right, so the conversation continues here on Global Television, and as always, we do not take for granted the time you spend with us here following broadcasts. Remember that the views of our guests across all of our programs, including here on Global Morning, are their opinions, and we respect those opinions. I am Uyi Agmofwegwe saying we appreciate you for investing your time with us here.
I am Ramsey Enoch Abu. Many thanks for joining us on Global Morning. Remember that Global Morning return again, and that's going to be tomorrow. My name is Ramsey Enoch Abu.